We have had the magic roundabout of the nomination process for the last few weeks and months. Now we have the full list of the Magnificent Seven.
But one way or another, I believe that I will be in the race. I believe I'll be the 9th President of Ireland. Thank you very much.
Maybe there's not a level playing field between people who are part of a party and people who are non-party.
Just because somebody else is doing it never makes it the right thing to do. And I have said from the outset that I want to run this campaign with a new style.
I'm going to be looking at very much running a grassroots campaign, sort of Obama style, through the internet, through local fundraising activities.
When people settle down and look at the field, I hope that Fianna Fáil people and others will look at me, because I want to get a broad base of support. I want to be president for all the people.
Well, we'll see on the 27th of October how the people of Ireland feel about me. I'll rest my case until then.
You're a generous, decent and good man, and I thank you.
It's about democracy, David, and I hope we have a good campaign, because
sure
I
we
think
will.
the people will in fact benefit from a campaign on the issues.
And you and I will have a good campaign, and let's hope the others do too.
Thank you.
It'll be really exciting.
I wish you well.
Thank you. I'm delighted we met.
Oh, it's inspiring stuff, isn't it, to hear them all talking? I mean, Damien, we finished there with Michael D and David Norris last night. They're the best of friends, considering they're going in as rivals.
Was that the Magnificent Seven, or was it the love scene from Romeo and Juliet?
I have to say,
But soft but light.
The newspapers today show all the smiles and everything, but, you know, this is an election at the end of the day, so perhaps the smiles should be short-lived at least. We'll only see them in public.
Yeah, but it's good publicity for Michael D. Higgins on his campaign, I would have thought. He's showing magnanimity, and there was total confusion yesterday about where Fine Gael stood. We got loads and loads of messages which were very hostile to Fine Gael, so I think there might be method in Michael D.'s madness.
Shane Coleman, News Talk's political editor, is with us as well. Shane, it is a good move, and it'll show him in a very good light that he facilitated in some shape or form Norris getting onto the ballot.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, it was there might have been very sort of soft and kind words between the two of them there, but this was a political move by the Labour Party. It was a very clever political move. They knew that one of two things: either David Norris was going to get into the race regardless, and I think ultimately he would have made it today at 12 o'clock regardless of what would have happened. And I think they also know deep down that David Norris can't win, so he's ultimately not a threat to Michael D. Higgins. So why not make him make Michael D. look magnanimous, and why not be in a position to reap the harvest of his number twos, because he will get a considerable percentage of number twos from David Norris supporters. So all round it was a very smart move by the Labour Party, and they're pretty pleased with themselves today, I think, particularly as you say, and as Damien said, when you set it against the sort of mess that was Fine Gael over the last couple of days, where really it was impossible to determine what their strategy was. They did seem to be trying to block David Norris, but it certainly backfired if that was the case.
Okay, let's talk about the Magnificent Seven as we're billing them now. Let's go through them in alphabetical order so that we're not accused of anything. Mary Davis first.
Yeah, I mean, look, everybody knows she's the CEO of the 2003 Special Olympics World Summer Games, a social entrepreneur, long-term campaigner from County Mayo. Pros, she's a woman, for starters. Don't underestimate the importance of that. She's called Mary. We've had two Marys as president already. She's got a very good reputation from the Special Olympics. Clearly a well-organised campaign. You saw the way she organised the local authorities. I mean, how many did she get in the end? 12 or 13? And she will attract transfers across the board. In terms of cons, though, against that, does she have the profile to compete with the candidates from the really, really big parties? She also made a bit of a gaffe on the Constitution on RT television a couple of months ago, when she appeared to suggest that she would refer a budget she didn't like to the Supreme Court. Of course, a president has absolutely no right to do that, to refer any money bill to the Supreme Court. So maybe doesn't have the political nous of some of the other candidates, but she could surprise a few people in this contest.
And Michael D. Higgins next.
Yeah, I just come from his campaign launch, Jonathan, and you just had now there's a long campaign to go, and there's a long way to go, and nobody's won anything yet. You couldn't help feel when you were at that launch today that you were looking at probably at the next President of Ireland. He has a very, very high profile. There's a big affection for Michael D. Higgins. You know, even the fact that they're stressing Michael D. The Higgins on his posters, the Higgins is quite small. There's not that many politicians that are known by their first name. He's going to get that Labour core vote either in number ones or number number 2. Some of the Labour core vote might go for David Norris. And what the Sunday Business Post poll showed is he is getting transfers from everybody. Clearly he's going to take a lot of stopping. The cons, clearly his age. Now he dealt with
He's 70, isn't he?
He's 70. Dealt with it very well today. He was asked how he might kind of deal with that, and he said, well, look, there's not much I can do about it. And he got a big laugh from everybody in the audience. Can be a little bit, how would I describe it, a little bit highfalutin. His speeches can be a bit kind of airy-fairy, kind of hard to pin down. He talks about inclusiveness and building a new republic. You just wonder how practical a lot of that is. But look, ultimately he is the clear front runner and a very warm favourite at this stage.
Sean Gallagher is next in the alphabetical list.
Yeah, listeners will probably know him as the panellist on RT's Dragon Den, co-founder of Smartphones, successful businessman. Pros, he's the youngest candidate, I think I'm right in saying, and it's not a very young field, so that might count for something. He has a really simple, appealing campaign message. This thing of I'm going to go to Enda Kenny and tell him to put me to work to get jobs for Ireland. Now, whether or not that is a credible strategy is one thing, but I think it will appeal to a lot of people when you have 440,000 people on the live register. Has a TV profile that has to count for something, and has done a lot of work on the ground, quiet work on the ground with sort of chambers of commerce and so on over the last few months. And he could also get some of the traditional Fianna Fáil Heartland vote. But look, the big question is, does he have the muscle, financial profile and everything to compete with the big parties, with the big boys? And there's also a question mark as to whether or not his Fianna Fáil baggage may also come against him. Difficult to see him being in contention after the first vote, Jonathan.
Martin McGuinness, 61 years of age and from Derry, the one I suppose that most comment has surrounded in recent days.
Yeah, look, doesn't need any introduction to any of your listeners. Pros, he is the highest profile of all the candidates. Everybody knows who Martin McGuinness is. He's also charming, he's very affable, he's probably the best pure politician of the 7 candidates, and he has that Sinn Féin machine behind him. The cons though are pretty obvious. His IRA passed, and he's going to have to deal with that over the course of the campaign. And I think particularly this issue of him saying under oath to the Bloody Sunday Tribunal that he left the IRA in 1974. How many people will find that credible? I think there's a question mark about whether he's going to get transfers. Didn't seem to in that Sunday Business Post poll last week, which means he's going to need to get to around 30% to win on the first preference vote. To me, that looks impossible. I think anything north of 15% of the first preference vote would be a good result for Martin McGuinness and Sinn Féin, and ultimately that might be the limit of their ambition.
Gay Mitchell, 60 years of age and from Dublin.
Yeah, has huge experience as a politician. Dublin City Council member, TD rather, minister.
Yeah, nothing to do with Fianna Fáil now. Let's clarify that.
No, definitely nothing to do with Fianna Fáil. Very much, if you cut him, he'd bleed Fine Gael blood. No question about that. Pros, he is the candidate of the dominant force in Irish politics right now, and Fine Gael clearly are the dominant force. He's a very good campaigner. He's never lost an election. I think he probably understands the job of presidency better than any of the other 6 candidates, and he is conceivably the most anti-Sinn Féin of the candidates. If it becomes a contest about stop Martin McGuinness, well then he could do well out of that. The cons though again are pretty obvious. His campaign has been very lacklustre to date, and I think it's pretty obvious that many people in his party, including it's rumoured many in the leadership, are unenthusiastic about his candidature. He's also never fought a national campaign before, can be a little bit tetchy as well. I think he's up against it, but because he's the Fine Gael candidate, you can't entirely rule him out.
Okay, 2 left on the list. David Norris, 67. Many people wouldn't realise he was actually born in Kinshasa before he moved to Dublin, so he's the only one that wasn't physically born on the island of Ireland, but of course that doesn't matter. He's still entitled to run.
He is. Look, everybody knows his track record as a university lecturer, as an Oireachtas member serving in the Seanad, and basically the campaign for homosexual law reform has done enormous work there. His pros, he's got a big profile. He's got a good track record. people tend to like him. People tend to really like that kind of, I suppose he's an alternative kind of personality, and people do warm to that. He's also, crucially, and a bit like Martin McGuinness in this respect, would be seen as anti-establishment, and in the current public mood, that could be a help. Also, people tend to like comeback kids in elections, and he very much is, well, if you leave aside his age of 67, he's clearly not a kid, but he lives up to the comeback part of it. The cons, again, are pretty obvious. That McGill interview, and the fact that he pleaded for clemency for a man convicted of statutory rape. Very difficult to get away from that. There's also going to be ongoing questions, and I see Dana was raising it even today about those. Yeah,
we'll come back to that
letters.
In just a minute. Yeah, we'll come back to that. And let's finish off with Dana Rosemary Scallon. Last week, she only indicated that she wanted to even get on the ballot paper. She got there yesterday. 60. She was born in London, raised in Derry.
Yeah, and of course won the Eurovision Song Contest, best known for that. Appeals to a very kind of traditional conservative vote, may get votes from both Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael supporters. Very pleasant personality, good with people, would be a good campaigner. The cons, look, failed to get elected in 2002 general election or the following European election. She did get 14% of the vote in the 1997 presidential election, but it's a much, much tougher field now, and I think some of the novelty maybe is worn off. I think she'll struggle to get more than 7 or 8% of the vote.
Okay, those are the 7 names that are on the list. On a serious note, Senator Norris has been speaking today. In fact, I think he said this as he was actually lodging his nomination papers down at the Custom House. He says he's legally prevented from publishing those letters of clemency that he wrote on behalf of his former partner who was accused of statutory rape. David Norris saying his lawyers have advised him there are issues of privacy and confidentiality which make it impossible for him to reveal the contents. Here's what he said.
I'm advised that for legal reasons it's completely impossible for me to do so, and I have to take the legal advice I get. There are issues of privacy and there are issues of confidentiality. There are letters sometimes between lawyers. I've been advised this legally. Now I don't know if you're a lawyer, but I take the advice my lawyers give me the same way as on the very rare occasions I visit the doctor, I take his advice too.
And then just within the last few minutes, Dana told reporters that David Norris must deal with the issue of those clemency letters. Here's what she said.
Now that the campaign is underway, does Senator Norris have to deal with this issue of the clemency letters?
Well, we'll all have to deal with issues, absolutely. And that's what the campaign's about, stand before the people, answer as honestly as we possibly can, be as open as we can, let the people decide.
So we all have to deal with issues, Dana, speaking to our political correspondent Pádraig Gallagher. I suppose 2 things, Shane. This isn't going to go away anytime soon, and perhaps the smiles we saw yesterday might be the last of them for the campaign.
Yeah, look, this issue is going to continue for the course of the campaign. There's no doubt about it. There's also question marks about his political judgment, and also questions as to why did you leave the campaign in the first place? He did pull out. I think there's also going to be question marks about the plausibility of that argument about the legality of releasing the letters. And I'd be interested to hear what another lawyer has to say about it. How come it was okay to release the first letter? Now, it could well be that David Norris has indeed got such legal advice, and that legal advice is watertight, but as you say, this issue isn't going to go away, and we certainly haven't heard the last of it.
Shane Coleman, News Talk's political editor. We have 4 weeks of this to go. Shane will be no doubt watching every move for us. Thanks for joining us, Shane.